Hello everyone, this is Diana Kim, and in this video I'm going to show you how to search in Engine Orange. So we're going to begin at the Newton Gresham Library homepage. From there we're just going to scroll down about midway and you'll see that Engine Orange is highlighted here. Before we get into doing a search, however, I'd like to talk a little bit about what Engine Orange contains. Engine Orange will give you access to our online catalog, so you'll have access to information regarding our physical books as well as our electronic books, our media content, which would include documentary films, newspapers, trade publications, magazines, and of course our scholarly articles. So you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that's about all I would ever need for a research paper. I'll just do all my searching here. And there's one caveat about that that I want to point out, and that is with regard to specifically our academic articles. This database communicates with all the information that we have available to us in the library at a rate of about 80%. So specifically, if you are looking for academic articles, if you conduct your search in Engine Orange, I would also suggest that you go to our subject-specific databases as well and do a search for your articles there also, because that will ensure that you don't miss that 20% that doesn't appear in Engine Orange. And the only reason that happens is it just has to do with competing companies that own the different databases and the different content. Some of that passes over through Engine Orange and some of it doesn't. And so to ensure that you have access to everything that we have available, um, you would want to go ahead and look in those subject-specific databases in addition to looking at Engine Orange. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's go down to this advanced search in Engine Orange and click on that. And that's going to take us to this very familiar 3-bar search page. And I understand that you are looking for information about policies concerning juveniles. So for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to search for policies regarding mental health counselors in public schools. So you know from watching my strategic searching videos that I am very adamant about the importance of using synonymous terms and related terms in your searches. And so for this particular demonstration, you'll see that it works for this one as well. So I'm going to start with mental health, but I'm going to use more than just mental health. I'm going to use mental or behavioral or emotional or psychological and health. So this search will be looking for mental health, behavioral health, emotional health, and psychological health, all within the same search. And then in addition to that, of course, we need to use terms like counselors or therapists or psychologists. And I'm also going to include social workers in this one. I realize that's sort of a related term, maybe not exactly on point, but just in case there's some articles about out there about social workers providing mental health services in public schools, I think it's not a bad idea to kind of go outside a little bit and get into some related terms. And then, of course, we want public schools to be one of our terms. And for that, I'm going to also use quotation marks because I want the database to look at public schools as a unit in that order and, with that specificity. And then, of course, we need to use policy. Now, we can do policy or policies like this, or we can just go to the root word and use the little star, and that will look for policy and policies as well. So it really doesn't make any difference. It's personal preference, but I like to type the fewer the words, the better, I guess. Um, so I'm going to put program here, and I can use program or programs. The computer usually will do the plurals without me having to be specific. And then I'm also going to do guidelines here. And I realize guidelines is kind of different, but if we're looking for policies and procedures and all of that, um, I feel like guidelines is somewhat related, and so it might give us some information that might be useful to us. So we really have a fairly specific search here that contains a lot of different search terms. And all we have to do is go ahead and click on search. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time because it really is looking through so many different materials. You can see here that we've retrieved 513, over 513,000 results, which is a lot, but that's because we're looking at so many different sources. Um, okay, so the first thing I want to suggest is always click this full text limiter so that everything that you bring up on the screen you'll have immediate access to. And the other thing you might consider, if your assignment requires you to look for materials within a certain date range, you can enter that date range here and then just click anywhere on this part of the screen and it will eliminate things that are outside of that range. I'm not going to do that in this example, but that's a way to eliminate some things too. And the other piece I want to point out is geography. And this will vary depending on what your search results are, but sometimes you'll see when you, especially when you're using Engine Orange and you're looking at so many different types of sources, that you'll receive results that are written by authors in other countries, and they're about topics that are occurring in other countries. And if you are really wanting to focus on the United States, you can use this geography limiter to to eliminate countries that you don't necessarily want to focus upon. In this particular case, it doesn't look like we have any of those, so I'm not going to click any of those. But you can choose as many or as few of these as you want, and it's just a nice way to eliminate some extra stuff if you want to focus in a specific place. And of course, there you can see we would have the ability to search in specific states. So if you want to focus very specifically in Texas or whatnot, you can do that from there. Now you don't have to do that, but it's handy if you want to do that. And again, though that geography will vary depending on your results. So in this particular case, we don't see Mexico listed because we haven't retrieved a result where that is a geographic area being studied or being presented to us. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, you are going to be looking at your source types over here. So this is where we can be specific about the types of sources we want to look at. All I have to do here is click Show More, and it will give me the range of all the different source types that are available to me in this particular search. You can see we have a lot of book results, academic journals, ebooks, news, magazines, conference materials, just a variety of things. So let's assume for purposes of this example that I want to look at newspapers and magazines as opposed to academic journals. So I can click as many of those as I want. So I'm going to do those two. And then I just click update and it will eliminate all of those results that don't fall within those guidelines. And so you can see now we're at 33,000 hits, which is still a lot. Um, but again, this is a very, very large database. So that is essentially how this database works. Everything else about it is similar to what I described in the strategic searching videos. So, printing and emailing and citing and exporting and all of that is exactly the same. So I won't go over that again in this video. But there is one thing that I do want to show you before we go, and that is this. There's a little trick. Of course, we built up our search here in these bars, but we can click on this down here where it says current search and Boolean phrase. If you click on that, it is going to take this entire search and squeeze it all onto one line. And so, these searches can be built this way too. To me, it's easier when you have the multi different bars so you can kind of mentally think through your search. But they can actually be built this way as well. And by clicking on that little link there, it will do that for you. Why this is handy is I can copy this and now I can go into a database such as Google Scholar, and I'll scroll down here. Google Scholar is located under the Articles and More tab. Just scroll down a little bit. You can see that Google Scholar only gives us this one bar to search in. So it's really hard to do that sort of expanding and, with the bars and all of that, which I feel like it makes it easier for me to sort of think through a search when I have that. But by using this one line, I can go ahead and paste that search into Google Scholar and hit search. And then now you can see I've got some additional articles that I can look at in Google Scholar from my initial search that I conducted in Engine Orange. So I just want to point that out as a little trick. It's kind of handy if you have a search where you are restricted to one line. You can build up your searches in those other databases and then simply copy and paste into the other databases for additional searches. And all these databases understand the different connectors, and so they run very seamlessly doing it that way. So that is essentially it. I'm going to leave you with that. If you have any questions about anything that we covered in this video or any of my other videos, definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to help. And yeah, that's about it. So definitely reach out to me if you have questions, and good night.